That's the Greenhorns from their eponymous second album, a song called Can't Stand It. And this is a contemporary band that has decided to pay homage to the garage rock sound from the 60s, and a lot of bands are doing that now. In fact, there's a small movement that is comprised of such. And there's even a festival called the Austin Psych Fest dedicated to just this. So, burgeoning movement and good sounding stuff. This is Hexes and Soldiers number 28. My name is Jason. Welcome back. Shout outs, I'd just like to say hey to you and yours and leave it at that. A lot of stuff to cover, so I'll get right to it. Looks like I've got a week to myself as my partner in crime has made the trip to Ithaca, New York to visit family and friends. So for the next week, I can do whatever it is that I wish to do, although I'm not sure what that would entail because being free to do anything, pretty much you end up doing nothing. I don't know if that makes any sense. But anyway, week to myself, I can game as long as I want, whenever I want, so that's brilliant. And yeah, looking forward to it. So, what else? I've mentioned this in the past. I don't know if any of you, I expect some of you perhaps have been watching, but can this show Game of Thrones get any better? Not that, no, hold on, not that this show needs any more attention drawn to it. I'm not trying to do a publicity campaign for it or anything like that. But seriously, this show really is, and I've said this before, the greatest show on earth. And oh man, if you haven't been watching or you've been holding off on doing it, stop holding off and start watching. It's just fantastic. And the final episode will be this Sunday. So looking forward to that. And playtesting has been steady as she goes for Gettysburg The Tide Turns. And again, if any of you are interested in the progress of that project, I encourage you to check out hexesandsoldiers.blogspot.com as I have been posting pictures periodically of that progress. And I've got one turn to go in this current scenario, and it looks like the Confederates could hang on and actually win Gettysburg. Isn't that something? So anyway, exciting stuff, and I'm liking the system. Really enjoying it. What else? I got Strategy and Tactics issue number 36 in the mail from Noble Knight Games. And I got this because it covers destruction of Army Group Center, the Soviet summer offensive of 1944. And just as soon as I get a chance, this is going on the table. And sometimes I say, can't wait, or this is going on the table, and then as things get set aside and other things pop up. But no, this game is going on the table in a big way, so can't wait for that. And then, the other disappointing thing about this is you got to be careful when you order stuff, especially used stuff. And I understand Noble Knight has a rating system, and it's fairly diced up with poor, I think, fair, average, good, very good. And they describe what each category means, but you're taking a chance sometimes if you get a little lower on the poll. And when I ordered this, I thought, well, how bad could it be? And the magazine's fine, the map's fine. But then I get the counters, and they're clipped. Okay, now, if I want clipped counters, I will clip them. I don't know, I feel like these counters have already been molested by somebody, and now I'm getting like, I don't know, seconds or something. If I want the counters clipped, I'll clip them. Otherwise, tell me the counters are clipped. Be specific. And then I look at the backs of them, and they're notated. They've got like numbers on the back of them, I guess to ease aid of setup. But I don't need setup eased. This is this is a strategy and tactics magazine game. How taxing could this be to set up? I can't imagine it was that awful that somebody was like, okay, you know what? I don't have 5 minutes to set up this game. I only have 1 minute, so I'm going to spend 15 minutes notating the back of them so I can set this thing up in a flash. And that's fine, but now somebody else is stuck with your writing all over the counters. And I don't mean to sound too anal, but and I can live with a lot of things, but I don't know. Anyway, I'm still excited to get it, and this will go on the table. Oh, and I should also add that after all this time, finally, I ordered a copy of Combat Commander Europe. Now, I hope I don't regret this. I've always told myself I would never get this game. Why would I get this game when there is a such thing as ASL? But for research purposes, I am getting this thing to compare and contrast to that is to say similar games. So I will come to know this game and then decide if this game is for me or not. And if it is not, I will sell it. And if it is for me, I will keep it. But that's also in the pipeline, should be here Thursday. But I will get into that, and I will let you guys know what I think. Not that it necessarily matters one hill of beans what I think about it, but um, yeah, I'm curious. So I finally gave in and ordered that. And then, of course, got some news for you. Looks like World at War magazine has Winter Storm, and this would be EFB4, covers the December 1942 effort by a scratch German corps to break the Soviet ring around Stalingrad and rescue 6th Army. The Germans begin the game on the Oxe River and must cross the entire map to reach the roads beyond the Mishkova River leading to the Stalingrad pocket. And this would be the fourth entry of Joseph Miranda's East Front battle system, which emphasizes the importance of command control. Combat units are battalions of not just infantry and armor, but a variety of supporting weapons. Each unit type has strengths and weaknesses, and all must be coordinated by a headquarters to fight at full power. This game pits German mobility and flexibility against Soviet numbers and combat power. Comes with one 22 by 34 inch map and 228 counters. Then you have a special offer from Against the Odds magazine. It looks like now for the 150th anniversary of the Battle of Cold Harbor, you can get a copy of Against the Odds magazine issue number 19 along with their award-winning Not War But Murder game inside, free with special purchases. New from Line of Departure War Game Quarterly is issue number 74, featuring a review of Struggle for New France, Shoots Games, with additional features on Red Star, White Star from SPI, Firepower from Avalon Hill, and Andean Abyss, of course, from GMT. The issue and full subscriptions can be purchased via PayPal. Then you have graphic war games, graphic novels from war games. An individual has taken the game Gross Deutschland 40 of the Gamer's Tactical Combat series and transformed this into a graphic novel. If any of you are not familiar with what a graphic novel is, basically it's like an advanced comic book. I guess you could call it for adults, not that it has adult theme, but not for kids. Anyway, apparently this individual has done this before with other games, and yeah, he documents and keeps track as he plays along, and has turned it into a graphic novel. So if that interests you at all, check that out. Just type in graphic war games and you should be able to find them. But it's some interesting stuff. And then you have the scheduled June release from High Flying Dice, which is Forlorn Struggles. Forlorn Struggles is a dual pack game. Comes with two separate games in one package. You've got Operation Sudwind, which is either a two-player or solitaire game recreating the mid-February 45 German offensive against the Soviet bridgehead across the Garam River in what is now southwestern Slovakia. It commenced on the morning of February 17th, and the German attack spearheads included a total of 44 formidable Tiger II tanks. Subsidiary attacks from across the Danube helped weaken the Soviet positions. 7th Guard Army defended stubbornly but was barely reinforced, and by the 24th of February, the Germans cleared the bridgehead. So the Germans won a clear-cut operational victory, but they incurred hard to replace losses, and in the grand scheme of things, Operation Sudwind was a localized and only temporary setback for the Soviets. Then you have Operation Gemse, which is a two-player or solitaire game, recreating the fierce early March German offensive in Oberlausitz and Lower Silesia against the unsuspecting Soviet Third Guard tank army commanded by General Rybelko. Securing Loban and the surrounding area was deemed critical for a possible relief of encircled Breslau. However, the planned grand encirclement anchored on Nürnberg soon proved too ambitious, and instead on March 5th, the Führer Grenadier and Führer Begleit Panzer divisions completed their reduced pincer movement and met up in Sachs Hogsdorf. So by March of 7th of March, the encircled Soviet 7th Guard Tank Corps was almost completely destroyed. So you have those, and then M&P has a new edition, finally, of Monty's Gamble up for pre-order. I have the original edition, and if you haven't seen the box art for this thing, don't look. It's hideous, it's awful, it's repulsive. I can't imagine anybody sticking what they stuck on this box and expecting it to help sales. But anyway, maybe somebody lost a bet and had to put it on there. I have no idea. I can't, for the life of me, figure out how it got on there. Anyway, among other things. So this is a reprinting of that, and it's a highly acclaimed area movement game on Operation Market Garden, simulating the Allied attack in Holland and the German response. Now, the Allies must land paratroopers, seize key bridges, and get 30 Corps up Hell's Highway to relieve the British paratroopers in Arnhem, all while the Germans are attempting to break the supply line. Monty's Gamble Market Garden features a semi-simultaneous movement system, which provides maximum interaction and requires players to make tough choices, as every move they make may be countered by their opponent. Both players will have pressing needs up and down Hell's Highway, but may only address one at a time, hopefully before the variable turn length causes the turn to end. And I think almost every game should have that variable turn length, because to know exactly when a game's going to end encourages an unrealistic last minute heroics to achieve last minute objectives. Yeah, I don't know if I am down with that. So, and not knowing just when the game's going to end really adds to the realism and excitement, in my opinion. So I'm totally down with that. Also included in this all new updated version of Monty's Gamble is Fortress Howland 1940, which was apparently originally published in Operations Special Magazine number 2, and this expansion contains over 100 counters and rules and depicts the German invasion of Holland from May 10th to May 12th of 1940. So if you already have this game and you thought, I don't need another one, not so fast. They've pulled a fast one on us, and now we have to get it because of this Fortress Howland 1940 edition. And I'm a big fan of the whole Howland thing, so I guess I'm stuck getting this at some point. Comes with one unmounted map sheet, 3 counter sheets, a rulebook, and 4 setup cards, as well as 4 6-sided dice. Finally, you might want to check out One Small Step Games, OSS for short. I was unaware of these guys until recently, and if you type in One Small Step Games, you should be able to find them fairly easily. But they did the Brigade Combat Team Command Kandahar game, as well as the Millennium Wars, looks like series. So yeah, check that out. And then they also have the first issue of Counterfact magazine, which I guess it's just a wargame magazine. It says this is the premier issue of Counterfact magazine. The issue game will be the Mule Shoe Salient at Spotsylvania Courthouse. And the issue content, they say, is still being determined at this time. But anyway, check that out. Another game company to keep on your radar. Which brings us to a small disclaimer. And kind of switching these shows up here and there. But it looks like this show will have no Situation Room. The Situation Room is closed for repair, remodeling, and cleaning. Kind of blew it out last show with the Napoleon stuff. And also when it comes to D-Day and the Battle for Normandy, I think most, if not everyone, at least, who listens to this show has, even if it's just a rudimentary, a knowledge of this event. And for me to go over it, I don't know, might be redundant. I don't know new stuff I could add to this story. Maybe I could retell it in a lower or a higher voice. But I feel like most everybody is familiar with this, so rather than spend 20, 30 minutes on a history of the D-Day landings, I would focus more on the games. And again, that's something I perhaps neglected in the last episode was games. And sometimes I have to remind myself this isn't a history lesson. This is supposed to be about games as they relate to history. So I might do well to remind myself that periodically. And so, with that said, I will focus on some games. So, what I'm going to focus on this episode is a top 10 list, which will cover your top 10 D-Day slash Normandy games. And rather than just gloss over the top 10, I'm going to spend the bulk of this show on the top 10 and just go into depth somewhat with each of these and then see where that leaves us. But so yeah, the top 10 D-Day slash Normandy games, and this would consist of games that at least start out with the beach landing and then proceed from that. But we'll start with the bottom of the list, number 10, and work our way up and then hit the honorable mention if I can remember that. So number 10, Axis and Allies D-Day. Looks like 2004, Larry Harris and Mike Selinker, Avalon Hill slash Hasbro. Says it's the morning of June 6, 1944. As Allied forces prepare to storm Normandy's beaches, the fate of Europe is in your hands. In honor of next year's 60th anniversary of D-Day, I guess this was, what, 10 years ago or 11 years ago, Avalon Hill will release Axis and Allies D-Day, a new standalone extension of the classic strategy game Axis and Allies. Axis and Allies D-Day allows players to recreate the largest amphibious invasion in history, and says it features detailed game components including a new blockhouse piece, an extra large game board, original artwork commissioned exclusively for the game box, that is. Other elements of this new Axis and Allies variant include a card deck with 3 card types, your order cards, your tactics and fortune cards. Adds depth and complexity to play. I think this is the first Axis and Allies game to have cards. But anyway, order cards determine play sequence and break turns into distinct phases. Tactics cards offer players varied strategic opportunities, and fortune cards add an element of unpredictability. Axis and Allies D-Day begins as Operation Overlord. The invasion of German-held Normandy is underway. 130,000 soldiers of the United Kingdom, Canada, and the United States are poised to assault Fortress Europe. You and your fellow world powers control their fates. One player controls Germany, whose Axis forces have turned the beaches of Normandy into a near impenetrable stronghold. Set to breach those defenses are the Allies, the United Kingdom, Canada, and US. The future of Europe and the world hangs in the balance. It says this was designed for 2 or 3 players, can be played in a couple hours. And is the third Axis and Allies variant, following the successful Axis and Allies Europe and Axis and Allies Pacific, both of which were published in 2001. And I have this Axis and Allies D-Day game and have played it. It's entertaining, it's basic, but if you want something fast and fun, this would be what you want. Which brings us to number 9, Frontline D-Day. I do not have this game and I have not played it, but came out in 2010, designed by Dan Viersen of course, Dan Viersen Games. It says assault the beaches of D-Day and beyond. Frontline is a tactical World War II ground combat game for 1 to 4 players and covers small unit action during the D-Day beach assaults and the steady stream of conflicts as the Allied troops advanced towards Germany. Now with this thing, it says each player commands a squad of 5 to 12 British, American, or German soldiers and vehicles, and each card represents 1 soldier or vehicle. Each unit has inherent actions each turn, including moving and attacking, with different modes of fire. An action card deck enhances basic actions and provides units with spur-of-the-moment options. The game uses counters to illustrate vital game information such as wounds, range, ammo, command, and morale. The range system is easy to use and simulates the movement of forces on the battlefield. Frontline can also be played solitaire using the enemy tactic cards. These cards give general, specific, and conditional orders to the enemy troops based on the current battlefield situation. And you can create battles by purchasing your starting forces, playing pre-made scenarios, or using the balanced randomized engagement rules. So that is Frontline D-Day, which brings us to number 8 in our list of D-Day Normandy games, The Killing Ground. This came out in 2002, designed by Mark Hinkle, produced by New England Simulations, another game that I am a proud owner of, and I have had it on the table, perhaps not long enough, but I will be busting this thing back out sooner than later. New England Simulations, it says, revisits a familiar World War II venue, the hedgerows of Normandy, with some refreshing twists in The Killing Ground. The game combines a mechanic usually reserved for smaller games, a chit pull combat system, with 2 gorgeous maps, 900 counters, a 36-page rulebook that should have "Don't Panic" inscribed on its cover. And I think I covered this in the past in a review, but bear with me as I cover it again for those of you who may have missed that show or have yet to hear this. The designer was content to place the warning on the first page of rules instead. So as you read the rules, you get the feeling that the designer wants to bring back the best parts of the good old days of wargaming, that newfound excitement and thrill you once had. That gradually wore off as you slogged through the complexity of the latest SPI monster. The rulebook is written almost in prose, gently explaining each rule, including historical footnotes when appropriate, though long. It is well organized and easily cross-referenced. The graphics are detailed but subtle, aiding play without distracting the player, in contrast with maps from games like The Gamer's Thunder at the Crossroads, where the vibrant color can make you cross-eyed. Hues of gray and green predominate. A fair amount of information is packed on each counter. Player aids are plentiful. And the game itself focuses on post-invasion Normandy. So, okay, I contradicted myself. The landing has already occurred, but I'm still going to include this game, where the Germans are trying to delay and attrite the Allies prior to their inevitable breakout. As much of the victory depends on the Allies' ability to maintain momentum throughout the campaign as it does capturing key victory point hexes, any signs of trench warfare or worse, seesaw battling over villages, is severely penalized. And yet another attempt to limit intelligence, the combat system includes a combat effectiveness chit pull system that disguises actual unit combat strength up to the last moment. And the system adds a level of uncertainty to the game that leads to unexpected combat results and tempers any tendency to attack without some forethought. Although primarily designed for 2 players, the game can accommodate up to 4 given its size and attention to detail. The Killing Ground includes 5 scenarios, all of which are historical. And this thing is also expanded by Overlord, D-Day, and the Beachhead battles. So that is number 8, The Killing Ground. And I think of all these, even the ones that I won't list here, of all the D-Day / Normandy games, this would probably be your most detailed, most elegant. Maybe you could call it the holy grail of D-Day games. This thing's beautiful, and if you can find a copy, obviously it's out of print. Slug through it if you're by yourself. It's a little work, or if you can find a group to help you out, all the better. Either way, a beautiful game. So that brings us to number 7 in our list, and number 7 is The Mighty Endeavor. 2005 Armstrong Essig Newhouse M&P. Mighty Endeavor is a standard combat series game covering the entire campaign on the Western Front from June 44 until April of 45. Players can land at the places of their choosing and manner along the coast of France in an effort to liberate France and the Low Countries from German occupation, and across the Rhine and take the German industrial cities along that river. You got one 22 by 34 inch map, one counter sheet with 280 half-inch counters, one 8-page generic standard combat series rulebook, and one 16-page The Mighty Endeavor specific rulebook, as well as dice. So if you don't have this yet, wait for the reprint, the second edition rather, which is up for pre-order on the M&P site. And this thing is both an updated version with errata corrected, a couple of counters added, and other counters made to conform to the expansion, and covers the Western Front, of course, from D-Day landings until the end of April 45, like the other one. But it also has an expansion to the original game that adds the Eastern Front from just east of Warsaw during the same time period, and a small map attachment that adds the Brittany Peninsula. So, following the same allocation of responsibilities as the Battle for Germany SPI game from 1975, one player controls the Western Allies and the East Front Germans, while the other controls the Russians and the West Front Germans. The two players compete by seeing which grouping of allies can conquer as much German territory as possible, while they also play against their opponent to stop the opposite front. Never a dull moment, as both players are always playing one side or the other at the same time. And the scenarios start the campaign at various points, and as an added feature, the game includes a 16th of December 44 Bulge campaign start for the Western Front. So players owning the original Mighty Endeavor can pre-order a reduced cost pre-order for this game on the honor system. Too much of the game changed to warrant an upgrade kit, so this option will only be available while the game is on pre-order, and the sneak peeks are PDF downloads, and they say are not final artwork if you go to the site to take a look. So the Mighty Endeavor, the second edition, contains two 22-inch by 34-inch full-color maps, one 8.5 by 11-inch full-color map, two sheets of counters, your 8-page standard combat series rulebook, 16-page Mighty Endeavor specific rulebook, 16-page Mighty Endeavor expansion rulebook, and 2 dice. So what else? Also, I played the original Mighty Endeavor, but the damn thing's so fiddly. Hopefully, I don't know if they can fix this or not. It was miserable. As much as I wanted to like this game, it was fiddly beyond all comprehension. I don't understand why it needed to be that way. Hopefully, they iron out some of those wrinkles. Number 6, D-Day Dice. Yeah, dice game. I think there's some cards. I'm not going to cover this in depth because anybody that's looking for a D-Day / Normandy game, I would throw this low on the list. There are a number of other things that I would recommend before this. So we'll just hop over that and go to number 5. And again, this is according to the Board Game Geek ratings. That is what has determined the order in which these fall. Number 5, The Battle for Normandy, in 2009, Holte, GMT. And the Battle for Normandy is a game that represents the climatic campaign, of course, in Normandy from D-Day, 6th of June to August of 44. Primarily at battalion level, with numerous scenarios to play out various smaller battles in Normandy. It's intended for 2 players or player teams. And the game uses a unique sequence of play and a system of fire combat throughout the airdrop and beach assault phases, with company level breakdown units, then a more traditional odds type combat approach throughout the rest of the game. Initial beach defense deployments at start and daily air support and defense allocations hidden to the opposing player create a level of uncertainty that makes for a tense, challenging duel. So if any of you out there who have been craving a tense, challenging duel, get this. The game combines a detailed, extensively researched order of battle with relatively fast playing game mechanics to make it not only the largest representation of the Normandy campaign available to date, but a manageable one that is meant to be played and not shelved. Scenarios include Bloody Omaha, Operation Epsom, Cobra, The Fight for Cherbourg, and more. So this has a rule book, a scenario book, 5 full-color maps, 9 counter sheets, a couple of log pages, turn record track, terrain effects chart, weather chart, German record track, Allied record track, combat results table, and some dice. Looks like 3 die 6 and 1 die 10. It also says there's an expansion for this that came out in 2013 that extends the play area south to include the Martin and Falaise scenarios, and extends the campaign to late August and the Third Army Breakout. So that's the Battle for Normandy, and that is also a game that I own, but sadly that has been shelved and not played, contrary to what they suggest. It's not to say that it'll always be that way, but yeah, that's the Battle for Normandy. So then that brings us to number 4, Normandy 44, GMT Semenich 2010. Now, is it Semenich or Simonich? I should do my research and do the guy a favor and pronounce his name properly. I apologize, Mr. Semenich or Simonich, if I've been mispronouncing your name. There is no disrespect intended. So anyway, Normandy 44 is a 2, 3, or even 4-player regimental level game of the D-Day landings on June 6 and the battles that raged in Normandy for the next 21 days. During this crucial period, the Germans had their only chance to push back the Allied invasion before the preponderance of Allied men and materiel made the outcome certain. During this period, the U.S. First Army fought across the Cotentin Peninsula and captured the major port of Cherbourg, while British forces took on the bulk of the German panzer divisions near Caen, and each turn represents 1 day. Each hex represents just under 4 kilometers, or just under 2.5 miles. Most units are regiments or brigades, though most of the army units are represented as battalions. The game uses a simplified Ardennes 44 system, that is, move, fight, and reserve movement. All non-tank battalion units are rated for troop quality, while all armor units have a tank rating. In each battle, these ratings are used to provide shifts for either the attacker or defender. Other important shifts are provided by air power, naval support, artillery, and/or Tiger tanks. The game includes a 22-turn campaign game, a 7-turn tournament scenario that focuses on the Allies linking up the beaches, and a scenario covering the battle in the peninsula and the capture of Cherbourg. In addition, there are rules for allowing 3 or even 4 players to play the game. The game includes one 22 by 34 inch map, 2 sets of counters, 5 player aid cards, a 32-page rulebook, and 1 die. And I believe, in fact, I know for a fact that Wargame Cop, I don't know, he may have another alias, but he's done video reviews here on YouTube. If you want to get a better look at this thing, take a look at what he's done by way of review. And don't know what's happened to him. He's kind of fallen off the scene. He was doing some reviews for a good long while, fair amount. I haven't heard from him in a while. I hope he's okay. And I also think that, though I don't know this for a fact, that a Marco Wargamer did a review of this game as well. So you might check that out. In fact, he did a review of the Battle for Normandy, he being Marco Wargamer. And I always felt bad for the man because sometimes people can be mischievous. And I think that's what arose here. I don't know the extent of it, but he started a thing where he was going to do a game, and you suggest a game, and based on how many people wanted him to play it, he would play it. Well, I think people wanted to see the poor man suffer and asked him to play the Battle for Normandy. And the poor guy, it took him forever to set this thing up, and he finally had it all set up, and he's got it on the wall, mounted on metal, and took all the counters and had them placed in magnetic holders. And I thought, there's no way this guy can do this by himself. It's going to take him years. And you know, once he showed the video of it set up, I never heard about it again. I think he probably ripped it off the wall and destroyed it out of frustration. You need a team to play this. You can play it by yourself, but it's going to take a long time. And so yeah, I think a couple of mischievous Marco Wargamer fans said, yeah, tough guy, let's see you play Battle for Normandy. And he gave it a shot, and then we never heard from from him about that game again. I thought that's funny. So that brings us to, where was I? Normandy 44. That brings us to number 3. And number 3 would be Liberty Roads. This is a World War II campaign of France simulation from 6th of June, of course, 1944 to March of 45. The map covers all the operational theater from Brest to the Ruhr, Rotterdam, and Toulon. Rules are divided in basic and advanced rules, and as somebody in the past has said, why do that? I guess if you want to, you're in a hurry and you just want to get the, well, basics of the game and learn it without a lot of chrome, then you would split it up. But don't just stop there. You know, if you learn the basics, get it down, but then add the advanced rules. They're there not just by way of suggestion. Use them because the game really you really experience the full potential of the game if you add on the advanced rules. So I really encourage that. But basic rules cover movement, combat, supply, allows play of introduction scenario Cobra, and then the advanced rules deal mainly with so you get airborne drops and landings, all that like fun extra stuff. So why would you um, not subject yourself to that? The game length, Cobra scenario, about 1.5 to 2 hours. The D-Day scenario is going to run you about 6 to 8 hours. And the campaign scenario, if you play it in one day, this would be considered gaming overtime, 15 to 20 hours. And then moderate complexity, so if you've been playing games for a while, there should be no problem. The map comes in 2 parts, plus an A3. They say A3 map covering just the part needed for the Cobra introduction scenario. 420 counters, a color introduction booklet, a rule book, a booklet with scenarios, your optional rules, historical notes, and yay, designer notes. Color player aids, and 2 dice. That brings us to number 2, Breakout Normandy, a classic, 1992, Greenwood and Stoller, Avalon Hill. This was reprinted by L2 in 2011, and I appreciate that because they made a great game more available. I have the original version, and I would recommend anybody that is able to pick up the original version. I don't have a problem with the reprint. Breakout Normandy, they say it's a complex 2-player war game. I don't know if I agree with that. I'd say moderate. Covers the Allied invasion of France, of course. The game concentrates on the initial landings and the subsequent breakout attempts as the German player tries to prevent the successful Allied landing, and if that fails, to contain the beachhead. The Allied player wins by establishing a beachhead, or better, by successfully breaking out of the landing area. And the map board depicts a Normandy area where the initial landings took place. The units are regiments and brigades representing infantry, airborne, armor, artillery, anti-tank, and anti-aircraft units. The game uses the area impulse system used in Storm over Arnhem, Thunder at Casino, as well as Turning Point Stalingrad. So you have the areas as opposed to hexes, and then incorporates area movement. A great game, a wonderful game. And if you want a game that is something that, again, you would play and not just have to have or just to collect, or something that isn't going to intimidate you and chase you around the house, this is it. This is something that you can get. It's like I say, it's of decent complexity, but not so much that you're overwhelmed. It's challenging. The graphics are great. The mechanics are great. It's balanced. You really can't go wrong. The other game, which is the Killing Ground, this thing's beautiful, but it's big. It's monster-esque, and it's a lot of detail. And unless you're half insane, then don't tackle this. But if you want something that you can play that's a challenge, that is fun, this is what you want. Breakout Normandy from 1992. So that brings us to number 1. And again, I don't always agree with these lists. To reiterate, these are compiled from the Board Game Geek community, and I've always said I'm suspect of these things, of how they're rated. I won't get into that again at this time, but number 1, 2009 release, was reprinted in 2013. Mr. Butterfield, Decision Games, D-Day at Omaha Beach. My oh my, what a great game. How many people love this thing? A lot. You got to play it. It's fantastic. This is what I hear, okay? I don't have it. I haven't played it. I've been curious. This is the game with the map that looks like a bag of Skittles blew up on it. If you got epilepsy, you don't want to, I don't know, stare at it too long. You might have an epileptic seizure. It's got issues, to say the least. But apparently these things are there for a reason. That is to say, the graphics, and they work quite well with the system. I get that. I just think they could have done it differently. I don't like these bright colors over the map. Let me break it down for you, just the basics of the game first. So, it's a solitaire study, strictly solitaire. This thing was designed strictly to be played solitaire. A study of America's most bloody and heroic day in World War II. The player controls the U.S. forces landing along the 5-mile stretch of Omaha Beach, on D-Day and their desperate struggle to establish a viable beachhead. The game covers the entire first day at a time scale that varies from 15 minutes per turn, which covers the initial landings, to about 30 minutes a turn later in the day. Units are companies and include assaulting infantry, engineers, amphibious tanks, and the game system controls the hidden German defenders in their Widerstandsnest, or resistance points, revealing the defenders and their reserves as the American survivors of the first landing waves make their way up the bluffs. And I believe what you have going on here is German units that are placed randomly upside down in certain areas, and they aren't revealed until you get within a certain proximity. Rules cover amphibious landings, German fields of fire, artillery, tidal movement, and intangibles such as U.S. leadership under fire, and the initiative of the American GI. One map, two counter sheets, 55 cards, and I believe I stated, and if I didn't, I'll do it again briefly, that my brother has achieved burnout when it comes to computer war games. Wanted a game he could play that was a decent solitaire World War II game. I pointed him towards Miniature Market. I think they had this. They had Field Commander Rommel. He picked this, and part of the reason he picked this, he told me later, is because the Field Commander Rommel one they had was the last one, and the box was dinged up. Now, you have to understand, this is a guy who I've gone to the bookstore with on many an occasion, and went and got what I wanted, picked it out, bought it, done. Wait for him to say a new Stephen King book would come out or something like that. You might have a pyramid of books stacked up as a display. He would have to go through almost every book in that display until he found one that was in pristine condition. Then he would make his purchase. So that rationale, I think, helped influence his purchase of D-Day at Omaha Beach. So the poor man gets the game. He wants to go back. He's an old school war gamer, board war gamer. He wants to maybe go back, see what advancements have occurred, wax nostalgic about what he used to do. He sits down, reads the rule book, and he's out of practice with this, so it was a bit of a challenge for him. Gets it all, laid out. He's ready to punch the counters, and the damn counters, he can't even punch them. He can't punch them because the die cut thing didn't cut through all the way, and the guy's too anal to sit down and cut him out with an X-Acto. It wouldn't be perfect if he did that, right? So he's got this game set up in front of him. He spent hours reading the rules, and he's said he's got it all down. He's ready to start. He goes to punch the count, and he can't play it. So I thought, man, how awful. Because, I want to rope him back into it. Then we can share war stories about games. So, yeah, it was a disaster for him. And I told him, by way of suggestion, contact Decision Games and tell him, say, hey, man, I bought this game. The counters aren't punched. Is there something you can do? What do you want to do to fix the situation? And I think they would be good enough to remedy the situation, as they've helped me out in the past regarding Wakcham Rhine. I needed some errata counters that weren't included in this thing, and well, they sent them to me free, so I suggested that, but he also said he might just pack it up and ship it to me, which might be a better option, because I could X-Acto these things out and play this and see what it's like. But also, he said that with this game, he understands the gist of it and what they're trying to do. He's got it, but he said the way they went about teaching it was so overly complex and so convoluted, so much so to the extent that it was a turnoff. And that's odd, because if that was like that in the first edition, and this is the reprint that he got, you would think or hope that they would have worked those kinks out, but I guess they didn't. And again, yeah, he's out of practice with sitting down with a conventional war game rule book, but well, I trust his opinion, and if he says it's convoluted and overly complex, well, 9 times out of 10 it probably is. So that's discouraging to hear. And then, of course, the poor counter sheet fiasco is funny as well as sad to hear as well. But anyway, that's number one, D-Day at Omaha Beach. Again, a lot of people like this game. They love it. They played it. They wouldn't part with it for anything, but I don't know. I'm still skeptical. So that brings us back to honorable mention. There's a couple of things here. You've got the Atlantic Wall, and of course, this is the 1978 Joseph Balkowski game from SPI. And of course, it gives a little brief history of what you're gaming, and we already know, we're already familiar with what we're gaming, so we'll skip that. But an old school monster game, and I would read you the review from the box, which is ancient. It says, this game simulates the historical conflict on a 5-section map representing the actual area across which cardboard playing pieces move and engage through a hexagonal grid, which functions like the squares of a chessboard in the outcome of each combat and the success of or failure of various game operations. It's a battalion level game of the D-Day invasion. It's a monster game, as I said, and it comes with 5 34-inch by 22-inch maps and over 2,000 counters. And I landed a copy of this back in the day and have not quite got up the courage to set this thing up, but perhaps someday I will. You got a couple upcoming things by way of D-Day / Normandy games, and it looks like we'll be seeing Atlantic Wall again, and this is called Atlantic Wall D-Day to Falaise. Pre-order up on Decision Games website. I think I covered this already. I'll cover it again for those of you that missed it. It's a grand tactical simulation of the campaign. Counters represent almost every formation that participated at the company and battalion level. Infantry, armor, anti-tank, reconnaissance engineer, assault gun, howitzer, rocket, parachute, ranger, commando, glider, and headquarters units are all fully represented. Features include Wilderstandsnesten, again your resistance nests, Cherbourg's fortifications, and the all-important bocage. The map portrays all primary and secondary roads, trails, and other types of terrain, along with the villages, towns, and cities that form the bastions of German defense. As always with this series, the orders of battle have been extensively researched to provide an accurate and functional depiction of the armies of both sides. Looks like there's 3 introductory one-map scenarios depicting critical periods in the campaign that use an abbreviated set of rules while still maintaining the historical accuracy of the campaign game as a whole. In addition, there's 3 larger multi-map scenarios that allow players to either play a short period within the overall campaign or play the campaign from various starting points. And the 6th of June assault is covered in 2 modules. You've got your airborne assault module, which sounds really cool actually, and the amphibious assault module, which allow players to recreate both the airborne and initial amphibious assault stage of the campaign. The amphibious assault module is played on a special beach display that shows each sub-area of invasion beaches with units depicted at the company level. It can be played as a solitaire scenario, and the campaign game can be played from the 6th of June to the 22nd of August with a total of, you ready? 234 game turns. They say this is the 3rd installment of the Grand Operational Simulation Series, or GOSS for short. The first 2 being Wacht am Rhein and Hurtgen Hell's Forest. All 3 games share a common rule set that's been extensively updated and revised, and some would say the errata for those rules is growing. Anyway, they say extensively updated and revised to simplify game functions while still maintaining the design of the earlier games. In addition to the basic rules, this game includes a set of exclusive rules to cover the special requirements of the amphibious and airborne landings and the logistical system required to support the armies coming ashore. So that is Atlantic Wall D-Day to Falaise, up on pre-order at the Decision Games website. And like I said, I went over this before, but I'm telling you, this thing is, the price is astronomical. I don't know how they can in good conscience charge this for a game. I understand it's big, there's a lot of stuff, but it's cardboard. It's not like these are metallic pieces and hand carved. I know the people put a lot of effort into designing this, into developing this, into play testing this. I understand all that, but this is not cheap. And I don't know how I feel about game companies charging this high of a price for a single game. I hope this is not the future of games, because they're going to alienate a lot of people. A lot of people especially now. I don't mean to sound like a politician or a newscaster, but hey, the economy is not what it was. People don't have a lot of money to spend on stuff, and yeah, to be honest with you, board games, they're going up in sales. They're going up because they have high replay value. When you start charging this kind of fee, I don't know. It's almost now I'm starting to think it's like elitist because you're going to get only certain people can afford this, and what is the point of that? I'm sure there's plenty of people that would love to play this game, and then they can't because it's so damn expensive. Now I'm going off on a tangent, but anyway, um, that leaves another D-Day game that's coming out, and this would be Day of Days. Another pre-order. This would be up on MMP's website. And they say, like It Never Snows did for Operation Market Garden, Day of Days takes on the first 10 days of the Normandy landings at the company level. The game is both massive and extremely playable, giving players a unique appreciation for the issues involved at the beginning of the invasion, the importance of the initial airdrops, the real potential for brutal German counterattacks, and the need to get off the beaches quickly. All these come into sharp focus within the clean and fast-playing framework of the standard combat series. Players can tackle the U.S. landings separately as single map scenarios, the Commonwealth landings on 2 maps, and of course there is the whole enchilada, as they say. Comes with a game-specific scenario and rulebook, your standard combat series rules, 4 setup charts, 4 maps, 8 counter sheets, and 2 6-sided dice. And if this thing truly is like It Never Snows, you're going to have counters all over this thing. Counter congestion, counter density. So be ready for that. And then they say for a couple of days once they put this thing up for pre-order, they didn't even have an image for it, which I thought was odd. They had it listed for pre-order, but you didn't even know what the thing was going to look like yet. Well, they finally put a box image up, which is it's okay. I can live with what they decided to go with, but anything else by way of artwork, as far as maps or counters, it isn't up yet. So they say the maps being done by Nico and the counters by Dean, so I trust what they will come up with, but I'm anxious to see. So hopefully they get that stuff up soon. And then the preliminary number of scenarios is as such, and I'm sure this is subject to change, but they've got 3 full campaigns you can play, 8 mini campaigns, and 6 smaller scenarios. So a lot of stuff to keep you busy there. So that's an overview of D-Day Normandy games, and hopefully that gives you a number of options to consider. If you need help deciding what do I play, well, if you're a beginner or just looking for something quick and basic and fun to bang out on a weekend with your kids or somebody who's not typically a war gamer, grab Axis and Allies D-Day game. That's fun. If you're somebody who's been wargaming for a while, wants something more of a challenge, maybe takes a little longer to complete, a little more, a lot more rather, of a historical simulation. A couple of things to consider. I'd recommend for sure Breakout Normandy, hands down, but also Normandy 44 from a GMT. And then finally, if you are a psycho wargamer who is never satisfied unless you have the biggest, baddest, most in-depth, most detailed game that there is, maybe something like Battle for Normandy is for you. But also if game elegance and beauty and detail and just a sheer literal labor of love is something you're after in your games, the Killing Ground would be definitely an option. Now, again, this doesn't cover the landings at the beach, but this thing is, again, in my opinion, the grail game when it comes to Normandy games. So there is that to consider as well. So that brings us to the end of the show, and I had wanted to do perhaps a designer's notes reading from Breakout Normandy, but as they are roughly 5 pages of designer notes, not that I'm complaining, just too long to read, so maybe if you can get a hold of them on your own and read them, I would recommend that. As far as future shows go, I'm starting to get a few, I don't know if I'd call them requests, but suggestions. North Africa was suggested, and that is a worthy suggestion as I had planned to do that anyway. It is an integral part of World War II and has to be covered, and I want to cover that. So that's going to be coming up, and as well, a late entry into the suggestion box was a show about Waterloo. I may not do anything Napoleon-esque for a while, considering I did the major Napoleon's Art of War blowout episode last show. So, and then as I've stated already, yet to do a Kursk show, yet to do a Stalingrad show. So those are looming on the very close horizon. And there's a ton of other stuff. So just stuff, left and right, all over. So with that said, I'll cut you guys loose. And, honestly, and I mean this really from, not to sound cheesy, but from the bottom of my heart. The fact that you guys listen to these things and even seem to enjoy them from time to time, really, that means a lot. And can't say enough by way of thank you. And so, yeah, thank you. And hopefully, I will be able to continue to bring you guys episodes in the future. So, as usual, thanks for listening and keep gaming.